on blast.
And we are live. This is the Wrap It Up on Blast Raps post-game show. As always, my name is Sheldon Alexander. In this edition, we're joined by my guy, Mikey. Mikey, what's good, my dude?
I'm good. Great game.
Amazing.
Great game.
Amazing.
People who work hard and hustle for the money and work their butts off and, you know, the big price ticket for this game, definitely walk away happy.
For
Raptors
sure.
get a win and they get a great game.
For sure.
Wow.
Let's get all the particulars out of the way. This episode of Wrap It Up is brought to you by Clean Cuts Barbershop, 2013 Danforth Avenue in the East End of Toronto. Clean Cuts, the multicultural barbers that will always keep you fresh for any and all occasions. So go see Skip and the crew. And as a wise man once said, tell them that I sent you.
Yep.
Hey, check them out on Instagram at Clean Cuts Toronto or give them a call, 416-917-4833 to book your appointment now. Wow. That was a great game. That was, I mean, all the hoopla. It's very rare that you have a situation where there's so much hype coming in.
And it lives up to expectations.
Right? It
Yeah.
surpassed expectations. I mean, think about how hype Raptors fans were for the first game against the Spurs, and that was a letdown.
Yeah.
DeMar played great, triple-double. That was a blowout game.
Yeah, and from the beginning, too.
Exactly.
First quarter was, you saw the writing on the wall, right?
This game, on the other hand,
Yeah.
I mean, it was close. It was kind of ugly, but it was close the whole way through. And it was set up that even if the Raptors lost with the ball in DeRozan's hands,
It was going to be a DeMar shot.
right?
Or, yeah, something
But
along those lines.
You could
yeah.
see Raptors fans being mad, but still at least being
I got to see
all
that.
right.
Yeah,
You know what I
exactly.
mean?
Yeah.
What a crazy game as the Raptors beat the Spurs in the second half of the reunion game, we'll say, between the Spurs and Raptors. Raptors win 120-117.
Big win.
DeMar DeRozan, 23 points. And here's the thing I want to emphasize about DeMar DeRozan's game. 23 points on 7 of 12 shooting, 8 assists. We didn't really see that efficiency from DeMar DeRozan
Yeah.
when he was on the Raptors, right? Like, DeMar had a really good game.
All around, yeah.
The problem is his game is going to get overshadowed because of what happened at the end.
Yeah.
I've been known, people have said, hey, I'm a DeMar
DeMar
hater,
hater.
right? I've been called a DeMar hater.
No,
While we were watching that game, what did I say to you? I said, I feel bad for DeMar
You did.
how that ended because
Yep.
that's tough, man. Like, that's a bad way for the game to end where
You're on the floor, and the guy you got traded for, you see him hustling to the net and cramming it down.
right?
Yeah.
Like, that is tough. The game was in your hands.
Yeah.
You had a chance. There was no timeout going to be called. It was going to come down to you
Did he
one-on-one against.
What?
So what happened was he's dribbling the ball, and you see Kawhi kind of reaches, forcing him to turn.
Yeah.
But then I think the thing that he
Kyle
slips, but then
came in.
Kyle came as well.
Yeah.
And then he just loses his footing, loses
Yeah.
a ball. Kawhi gets it.
And the rest is
And
history.
Kawhi seemed so anxious. I for a second
You
thought
thought
Kawhi
he
was going to
traveled,
travel.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah. He cautiously put that one in the net, yeah.
But it wasn't just that, right? Because if we start with, just because of the way the game ended, I feel like we should start with how the game ended. Do you know what I mean? Let's start there. Just because at the end of the day, out of a timeout, Adrian Griffin, who had to take over after Nick Nurse gets thrown out,
Teed up,
which,
like, come on.
come
yeah.
on, Nick Nurse. Like, you can't get tossed in
Yeah,
these
in
close
these
games,
kind of games,
and give
yeah.
free points to the other
You
team.
don't go walking on the court chasing around the coach like
It makes
that.
no sense.
I mean,
as bad as Mark Davis is, and he's
Where's the
getting crushed
leadership?
online,
Yep.
come on, you can't do that,
No.
right? So anyways, Adrian Griffin, great job out of a timeout, gets the play
Yep.
where Kawhi gets a post-up on DeMar DeRozan, gets an easy bucket. Next time down the floor, same thing, and I wrote this. I want to get your take on it. Kawhi, when he hit DeMar with the ISO, hit him with the turnaround J in his mouthpiece.
yeah.
That's a big boy shot.
Yep.
But isn't that the same shot that we got mad at DeMar for taking all these years, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of crazy?
Yeah, but I mean, I guess it just looked better with Kawhi doing it.
And
Right?
Kawhi hit it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Like, what did you make of this game just as a whole in terms of DeMar DeRozan and Kawhi, the showdown we all wanted to see and we all got at the end?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, first, like the little bit of tidbit, it's a cool little symmetry that the Raptors start their second half of the season, you know, favorites to maybe make a run to the finals, and at the same time, kind of close the chapter on this whole DeMar DeRozan stuff, right?
Yeah.
So they can kind of focus ahead. The game, like you said, there was no it led up. Everything
The
was
flow
great
was
when it
kind of
Yeah,
bad.
I mean in the beginning, yeah, and point that I said too is it seems like all the games that the Raptors have that are quoted big boy games.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They buckle to the hype in the first half. We will say, you know what I mean, and they kind of sloppy turnovers and whatnot. But yeah, the second half, it I guess became about play. DeMar did his thing, Kawhi did his thing, back and forth, and we already talked about the end. That was epic.
You talked about, while we were watching it at the end, you brought up the fact that it kind of seemed like a playoff game in the sense
Yeah.
where playoff games get kind of tight. There's not a lot of speed or pace to it. It's kind of like an ugly, who's going to win it at the
Who
end
makes the
type of
mistake?
thing. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly, right? And with these big boy games, the one thing, if you're new to the Raptors, if you're Kawhi Leonard, you're Danny Green, especially you're Marc Gasol, Jeremy Lin, I feel like this Raptors crowd tonight, the juice was
Lit.
in the building, right? Like the crowd was lit. DeMar was there. The energy was there.
The drip was lit.
There's a little too much drip on
Too
that
much
broadcast
drip,
tonight.
yeah.
I'll just leave it at that
Yeah.
and move on because I'm
If
sure
you guys watch the game,
yeah,
what you did, you know what we're
you
talking
know what we're
about.
talking about. I'll just let that slide. But I feel like if you were, the Raptors have a lot of fans. The fan base is hyped up.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of extra juice in that building, and it was loud and it was crazy. And when you saw the bench get some minutes, I felt like Lin and Gasol really struggled with their minutes early. And maybe that was throwing them off. Like, you're not, like, I feel like people know Toronto's crowd is lit, but it's another thing to actually be there with the atmosphere and the stakes at that height. And it looked so sluggish, and those guys seemed kind of thrown off. But the guy who was there from the beginning, to me, Kyle Lowry.
Yeah.
My guy Boogie messaged me and said, "This is a Kyle Lowry we need." What did you think of Kyle Lowry tonight?
Well, if any game, he's played out well, obviously the last couple games, but any game he's going to step up. You knew it was going to be this one, right?
It's a DeMar
he wants
game.
to show up against DeMar. The thing that I liked his hustle.
Mm-hmm.
He led the group but basically like we need to see more of that, and we're not going to be playing DeMar in San Antonio every game, right? So if we could get this kind of Kyle, like you said, from here on out, maybe rest them in the other back-to-back ends that we have. This is going to be the big help that we need for the playoff in April and May, right?
For sure. Kyle Lowry tonight with 17 points on 5 attempts shooting. Big thing for Kyle Lowry, he has a 3-point shot going, 3 of 6 from 3, add in 5 assists. He and his backcourt mate, Danny Green, also had a great game. Danny Green with 17 points, 5 of 7 from 3. If you're getting 8 of 13 from 3 from your backcourt, that's going to be tough to beat on most nights.
Jeremy Lin played well in the fourth, too.
You're right. Jeremy Lin
Him
came
and
out.
Gasol started off, 2 of 12?
2 of 12. You're right there. Yeah, they started off the game 2 of 12. And then the fourth quarter minutes, right? The fourth quarter minutes, it turned out that it was 14-2 bench points. That's how it started out in the fourth quarter. And you're right. That was Jeremy Lin. Jeremy Lin did such a great job of, it felt like he got a little bit of his mojo going, right? He got comfortable, his handle. He had the great play where he just kept his dribble, found Serge.
He found the open lane a lot. But I was saying to you, too, it seemed that at the beginning of the game, one of his first possessions, he drove to the net and he got blocked.
Yes.
Bad. I don't know if it was Pirtle or
I can't
Bertrand.
remember who it
Somebody
was.
blocked him bad.
It was hard, too.
And then you could tell in the next possession, he tried to do the same play. He found an open and he went, but he tried to pass because you could see he was a little timid if someone was going to come from behind him. He's still getting used to it. He's trying to find his groove, but when Nick Nurse got ejected, the thing I liked is they didn't defer from the game plan, right?
Yeah.
They still had the bench on in the fourth. They still waited till about the mid-mark to bring it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was kind of, you wouldn't even really have known that Nick Nurse had gotten
I know what you're
ejected,
saying.
right?
Yeah.
And the flow just went, and there's big boy minutes by the bench.
It was awesome how it was set up, right? Because you mentioned it, and I keep going back and forth between, do you keep playing the bench as a full unit? And the Raptors continue to do that. Now,
With Gasol, yeah.
I feel like they've improved that bench. If you're coming with Gasol and Jeremy Lin off the bench, that's a big upgrade. OG played really well in this
Yeah, I
game.
liked OG's
He was
game.
3 of 3 from beyond the arc, just wetting. He played nice in this game. So the thing that got me hyped, though, was when DeMar and Kawhi both checked in the game around like the 750 mark.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay,
You knew
this
it was
is what
gonna
we're here
be-
for.
You knew if it was going to be a close game within 4 points, 5 points,
Yeah.
you knew it was going to be. But the funny thing was, DeMar was covered by Kyle.
Yo.
And DeMar was covering Kawhi.
Because they kept trying to get the switches, right?
Yeah.
So they kept getting the switch, and Kyle ended up on DeMar, and I don't think DeMar scored on Kyle once.
No, yeah,
did
he actually played some gritty defense.
Right,
on him.
Kyle held his own. And one time he forced DeMar into throwing a cross court pass, which ended up in a turnover.
Yep.
Another time, DeMar missed his turnaround jumper over Kyle.
Yep.
And down the stretch, I mean, going back to the initial point made by a dude on Twitter that sent that in, that was the
With
downfall
DeMar,
of DeMar's game, right?
yeah.
And the reason why you got Kawhi Leonard was because he makes those defensive plays down the stretch.
And he plays a 4-quarter game.
Right? A full court game, both ends of the floor.
4-quarter game, too.
Yes. And someone here early in the chat here, let's get some comments going. Someone says, poor shooting night, big win, but terrible shooting night for Kawhi.
It was.
Totally true.
I wrote it down. It was 5 of 12 or something.
That's how he started, yeah.
3/4.
He finished 8 of 23.
And he finished with 25 points, guys, and you were even surprised.
I looked up at the box score. I was like, what? How did he get to 25 points?
Yeah.
But that is, and I hate to use this cliche because I remember it from when we were younger and you're watching Mike, and somehow Mike always found a way to get his 30 points.
Yep.
And it's no matter what, a great player is going to find his way.
Ugly or sexy, he's getting those points.
He's going to get his buckets. And Kawhi ends up being the high person in this game at 25 points, which makes no sense, right?
And Danny Green had a good night. Kyle balled out.
Pascal balled out.
The lead scorer was Pascal. He's
Spicy.
He's becoming a big threat from beyond the arc in that corner.
Yeah, he's knocking that down.
He's really implemented that.
2 of 2 from 3, and his shot's wet. Like, it wasn't touching the rim.
No rim. No rim.
Shouts to my guy Parco, who messaged me on Twitter saying his shots have always been nice from the corners. The corner threes he's been hitting.
I mean, eventually teams are going to scout that in. No, but if he gets away with it now, he'll keep it going.
Let's get to some comments here. Yes, I will shout out my guy, our guy, Shandy Man here. You will definitely get a shout out. Go way back to Greenwood baseball, man.
Yes, he's still playing baseball. Great baseball player.
Right? More comments here. Let's see. Oh, someone shouting out just saying, we on blast and we live. Hey. Someone says, woke up at 7 a.m. in the Philippines to watch this game. Start my day off right. Good win. Hold on. So are you watching this podcast right now from the Philippines? Yo, shout out and respect. Respect. That was, hey, that is a great way to start the day. Yeah. Someone says, Emma here says, heart in your throat stuff.
Yep.
It was a crazy back and forth game down the stretch.
Like a 20-point blowout. I want good games like this.
And this is what, going back to your earlier point about playoff atmosphere.
This is what the playoffs are. Yeah.
It's going to be close games. It's going to come down to who makes the last mistake or who forces the last mistake.
I said something silly. I don't care. I'll put it out there. I said it to you. And you said, well, guys, there was so much hoopla about this game, about DeMar. Listen, man, it's funny. I'll tell you. But honestly, I almost forgot that Kawhi was playing his ex-team too.
Right?
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It was just all about DeMar back in Toronto. DeMar. That I forgot. I go, oh my goodness.
It's like Kawhi's
game against the Spurs too.
And the thing is, we were watching Kawhi struggle for a lot of the game.
Yep.
And to further your point, it's Greg Popovich designing a defense to throw double teams at him from different ways and stuff. And who knows, maybe that was the way that was the thing that was throwing him off early, because the double teams were coming and then they kind of hedge and then come back. And he really struggled. They pack in the paint. So if you want to drive into 3 guys, cool. That's on you.
That's what Lynn kept doing. Yeah. And it's give it to the Spurs. They played great today. Bertrand.
Yeah. He was splashing threes. Bellinelli.
Career high. I mean, the Spurs just kept finding the open guy.
Yeah.
Right?
You said how many times during this game, wait, how are the Raptors even winning?
It was just
seemed weird.
I mean, but like you said, Michael used to get his points like that. That's what a good team does.
Yeah.
A good team could be playing sloppy, and that's most of the plays you're seeing.
Yeah.
But they're still always in it.
The other thing to remember, too, it's the first game off a week off for the All-Star break.
Both
For both teams.
yeah.
No, that's what I mean for the sluggish play, right? So if you match up these 2 teams together, you would assume the Raptors are the better team, right? But how a team reacts coming off an extended break, you don't know how that's going to work. Marc Gasol looked so sluggish. His first minutes when he checked in, he got like 2 fouls in like 3 minutes and subbed right back out of the game.
Yeah. There's a lot to this game, too. You mentioned there was the supposed Kyle Lowry Forbes.
Yeah.
Toss up in the hallway at the halftime. If everybody saw it holding their breath, if Kyle's foot was inbound or not, Kyle's leaning over the scoreboard.
What a great
trying
sign.
To watch. I mean, ESPN must be clapping its hands saying, wow, we got a good one here.
Yeah.
It's great all around. This is what TV wants. It's,
Yeah.
a great game for just every aspect.
That's drama. And I keep saying, because I live and work in Toronto and Canada, obviously, and hockey is king and all that stuff. And we always have all these meetings and arguments every day about is basketball growing and how many people are watching basketball. Well, how many people are watching basketball and all that fun stuff. And I just think that if you are a fan of sports, if you're just a fan of entertainment, how you watch that game and don't come away entertained like that.
I'm not entertained.
Right? Like that was incredible. I was going to read more comment. Oh, no, I was going to talk about Gasol for a second here because Gasol came off the bench again. And when I saw that note earlier on Twitter, I thought, okay, what's happening here? This is weird because I don't think there's an argument whether Marc Gasol is better than Serge Ibaka, right? I think Marc Gasol is better. But you keep bringing up a very good point about Gasol might be more valuable with the bench than Serge Ibaka would be.
Yeah, well, yeah, but he's more of the, obviously, experience in the leadership. He's like a 0.5. He distributes the ball better. But plus, what I said is, I'm not the biggest component. I don't care that much of who starts the tip off. It's more or less who finishes the game, especially in games like this. Now, Gasol had foul trouble and all that. I can't recall.
Yeah.
Was he on? Was he even on?
He wasn't on at the end.
Yeah,
No. He was in foul trouble. He had his fifth foul.
I mean, going forward, and I said this when you first asked me the first game. I said, if I was a coach, what I would do is keep it the way it is. You have Gasol in the first half, play with the bench, get the bench going a bit.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the game, you could have both Ibaka
and
Gasol, or at least let's see. The most important is let's see who finishes. Right?
Exactly. No, it's true. I still think that I would like to see him start, but you're right. At the end of the day, that doesn't really matter. Yeah, you mentioned Marc Gasol struggled with foul trouble was mostly the issue he had. Yeah, I mean, all night, and he ended up checking back out of the game as he had his fifth foul. Nurse never brought him back in. And you look at the line, 4 points, 2 of 7 shooting, and you might look at the game and think he struggled, he looked sluggish. My thing, and I keep bringing this up because, I try to have these conversations on this podcast and with our viewers about paying attention to other things because it's not just about only the stats or only the eye test. It's like a mixture of both. So when you look at that and you see in 17 minutes, Gasol still had 7 rebounds and 6 assists. He's finding other ways to be active, which I think has been the strength of this Toronto Raptors team the whole year, is that they have a bunch of guys that can contribute in multiple ways. If the shot's not falling, they're still going to be able to contribute. And you saw that from Kawhi tonight, right? Kawhi at the top level, but Marc Gasol to a lesser extent, where shot's not falling. He didn't really have it going, but 7 rebounds, 6 assists, still finding a way to contribute.
Yeah, and then you got McCaw's becoming a good little energy guy.
Yeah, man. I like the defense and the energy that he brings.
I wasn't here. We're not going to talk too much about it, but I'm just going to make a little point. Now, I wasn't here for the podcast for after the Wizards game, but that was a great game where you saw the diversity of the Raptors and really what they can bring, through all 9 players, right?
Totally. Someone here in the chat on Instagram says Phil Handy is a real MVP. Yeah. We bring up Phil Handy a bit.
Yeah, we bring him a lot.
Yeah, and I mean, it's another thing, again, where we're trying to talk about different angles and things that you might not be familiar with. And Phil Handy, again, is a Raptors assistant coach. He's a player. He was with Cleveland. He worked with LeBron. He worked with Kobe. Kyrie was one of his big projects. And, you see the development of the handle that Kawhi Leonard has developed this season. Siakam. He put it on DeMar tonight. You're totally right. Siakam. You're seeing the little Euros from Siakam. And the game just improving so much. And Phil Handy was moved up to the front row assistant because I don't even want to try to butcher the Spanish. The Spanish coach.
Gasol's
so I'm going to mess up his name, so I'm not even going to try. Yes, he's off coaching the Spanish national team this weekend for their qualifier. So that bumped up all the other Raptors assistant in a chair. So Phil Handy was in the first lead chair, but then Nurse gets kicked out. So everyone's moving up the line. But yeah, shout out to Phil Handy anytime we can because all players that worked with him have said how helpful he's been. Oh, yeah. More comments here. Our guy who's out in the Philippines says, Jeremy Lin had a good game for us, a boost off the bench.
Yep.
Totally agree. Brittany says, need Gasol to start. Those fouls were something else, though.
Yeah,
I'm
one
with
of them
Brittany.
was a fingertip foul, like that was.
Yes. When
Marcus Gasol's
who was, it
Grizzly
was Aldridge, right?
A Grizzly vet, no pun intended. But you know what I mean?
I see
Like,
what you did
he's
there.
not going to make that silly mistake. I know that ref, he kind of had it out for us from the get-go.
Yeah, the ref was pretty bad. And the thing was, DeMar was mad at the ref. Kyle was mad at the ref. Pop was mad at the ref.
Obviously, Nurse was mad at the ref.
Yes. You know what's funny, too? They said it on the broadcast, and God bless Jack.
Oh, I love
He's
it.
probably the number one Raps fan there is. It's
Yeah.
so funny. But he's like, oh, well, Popovich isn't getting thrown out of the game. And it's like, of course Popovich is not getting thrown out of the game. It's Greg Popovich compared to Nick Nurse. Like, Nick Nurse is in his first year.
Coach.
Yeah. The GOAT.
Yeah,
Or
20,
argue
what,
one of the
23rd
GOATs,
or
right?
Whatever, how many years even
Oh, man, so funny. This is great. Great comment here. Shouts to you, Diaz, who's a rider, always here for the podcast, says, don't let this distract you from the fact Sheldon is a DeRozan hater. How? I'm not hating on DeRozan at all.
He's a fan of the trade. Trade.
Again, DeRozan played great in this game. I actually feel bad for him for how that ended.
Yeah, I didn't. I don't because he played.
He played great.
He got us good in San Antonio. Got his first triple-double. Now it's our turn.
But I'm saying at least if he had the chance.
Kawhi got 40. Right? I get what you're saying, but yeah.
I'm just saying the moment, the way that the game went, where he's missing shots down the stretch, Kawhi is just hitting buckets on his head top.
I have a question.
And then then he's dribbling the ball up the floor. There's 15 seconds left. This is the ball game. Kawhi steals it off of you, goes down the other end, dunks it to take the lead, and you're on your ass at center court watching that happen. That sucks.
So DeMar could have had the last shot. He deferred, but
yes.
Who was guarding him on that last play?
So what happened? The end of that game was super crazy, and it was funny. No, so what happened was on the final play, Raptors are up 1, and DeMar has the ball. Kawhi's guarding him. They got the screen, so he switched off. Danny Green ends up on. Gets past Danny Green, kinda, but passed it off to Bertrand, who missed the shot.
Decent look, too.
Decent look, missed it. Kyle contested as much as he could, and then
foot in, foot out.
Exactly.
That was good.
But here's the other thing that to not get to emphasize the importance of this deal. What did we just say? He went for the switch, and you went from Kawhi to Danny Green. Now, Kawhi's a good defender, but Danny Green is also a great defender and a great piece added by Masai Ujiri. He's ready for that moment. He's in his defensive stance ready. I'm going to bring this up again for the people new to the podcast. You might be tuning in for the first time, but I'll never forget this, and it really got me excited for the playoffs. And it was an interview Danny Green did on First Take earlier on in the year. And they asked him about...
ESPN game, I think.
It was against Philly. Yeah. And they asked Danny Green about him and Kawhi's chemistry that they have together. And Danny Green said the biggest thing is that they pride themselves on the defensive end of the floor as a duo. Like, we're going to lock down... Yeah, we're going to lock down the other team's perimeter guys. And to see that, the end of the game where, okay, well, we're going to try to get Kawhi off of DeMar, but, okay, there's Danny Green ready to go. Yeah. What a luxury to have if you're Nick Nurse, right?
And Danny Green said it and set it up Kawhi, but I'm pretty sure Kawhi was asked the same question. He'd say a similar answer, right?
Yeah, totally.
They're both special players.
Totally. Someone says, Nurse all up in his feelings tonight. Totally true. Another comment, Kawhi won the showdown. Got by Kawhi. So glad Kawhi is utterly so ruthless. More comments, sold out crowd. Can't wait for the playoffs.
Yeah, that was worth the ticket of admission, even though it was $1.50 American.
Yeah. That last play on DeMar is what makes Kawhi Kawhi. So happy for him. So tired of this whining by DeMar and his fans. Let's talk about the ovation. So at the start of the game, DeMar DeRozan checks in, after the first timeout.
Which they always do. They do the video tribute.
Yep, they stayed with it, the broadcast. They didn't go to commercial break. Yeah. They stayed, so they played the video tribute, and then DeMar got the standing ovation for, how long did it last? A minute 40?
We timed it, guys. It was about a minute 40, minute 45.
And it seemed like it had steam still. Would have went longer if there wasn't a game to be played.
Yeah.
But what did you think of the ovation, the reception that DeRozan got?
That you can see how classy Toronto is. And it looked good on us as a city and fans.
It did look good. And I think it's one of those, you kind of tell that the moment hit DeMar DeRozan as well, because the way that he came out and walked out to center court.
He's a little shy.
A couple times, right? He
Yeah.
walked out twice, put his hand up. He was kind of excited. And do you think that the moment kind of got to him in that, where he's kind of like, oh no, I got to regroup? Because...
Yeah, well, what was funny was Pop reached over and said something to him in his ear. And I asked you, what do you think he said? And he probably said he has to go and, do a little lap. Did it get to him? I'm pretty sure he expected it. But yeah, I mean, in that situation, going through that, it's kind of, I think every human really is a little bit like, oh, thank you. The pleasure is mine. No, the pleasure is mine, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean,
DeMar DeRozan is a class player, and
Yeah.
he was here for, 9 years?
9 years.
And the thing was,
we watched him grow.
again, I'm not overcompensating because people think I'm a DeMar hater. I actually said this before the game, too, and on our last podcast. What DeMar DeRozan, Kyle Lowry, and Dwayne Casey built and added legitimacy and made this a winning team again. Like, you got to remember, after Chris Bosh left, that was a team that won like 20 games maybe for
Yeah.
those 2 years. And then DeMar DeRozan, for his part, improved
Year
each after
year, yeah.
Yeah, every year DeMar continued to improve, and then the pieces started to fall into place. Things started to work out a little bit better. Him and Kyle, the bromance started. Shouts to Masai for making the pieces around them work.
Yeah.
And shouts to Casey, because Casey was on those guys every single year, trying to make them better, probably nagging them to make every, there were no nights off. His whole pound the rock, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's a constant. And so he deserved that standing O, which leads me to my next question for you. Is DeMar DeRozan the best Raptor of all time?
I mean, you got to put it in their terms, right?
Okay, let me give you this. Best Raptor player, like in terms of for what they did in a Raptor uniform.
Well, longevity, it's DeMar. He has all the records. The special thing, too, there are tons of special things, but a couple of special things is we watched him grow, right? From this scrawny little kid from Compton to, an established all-star. He loved the city. He wasn't, too outlandish or anything like that. But to me, I mean, there's a lot of Raptor greats. You can say Hakeem Olajuwon wore a Raptor uniform, but that was at his, the end of his career and all that. So clearly it's DeMar or Vince.
Yeah.
DeMar has our heart, but realistically, I think the best player always, it was Vince, because at that time he was a top 5 player. And DeMar really never got to that point. He was an all-star and all that. Listen, he's got Raptor for life, always. But when you're talking about, if you're going to put in a little 3-year window, right? I mean, you're talking Vinsanity was...
Yeah, like Vince
Right?
was at a point considered to be one of the best players in the league. Like
Him,
top
Iverson,
5.
Kobe, like you're talking, right?
Leading vote getter in the All-Star game.
Yes.
Like Vince Carter was...
And the dunks, and then you
There
gotta
were-
remember that rap guys, whether you're a millennial or not, like Caden, he doesn't know those times of the early 2000s when the Doug Christie's and Adele Curry's, that was a solid Antonio Davis, solid Raptor team.
Vince Carter was a problem, man. And the thing is, Vince, there were rumors at a certain point that, the Lakers were considering trading Kobe for Vince, right?
Yeah.
Like, people forget about that.
Yeah.
And the playoff duel that
Him and
Vince Carter
Iverson.
had with Iverson,
Oh,
where they're
God,
trading
50 for
50-point
50.
games in the playoffs.
Yeah.
That, to me, when you're comparing him to DeMar DeRozan,
Yeah.
who, it's well documented. I'm not going to slander him by saying that he had pretty bad playoff performances for this Raptors team. To compare that to Vince Carter trading 50 spots with Iverson in the playoffs,
Yeah, no.
that's tough.
Yeah, at that time, and again, you guys, you gotta be 30 years old or plus to really know kind of what those times were like. And I know it was a little bit new for Raptors fans and all that, but that was excellent ball and one of the best players at that time.
The other thing here too that I want to ask you is, so who's the first Raptor that should get their jersey up there in the Raptors? Is it DeMar or is it Vince?
It's Vince because Vince is older.
So Vince going to retire first?
Yeah, you're not going to, I mean, if you're going to wait for DeMar to retire. Then you should have at least 2 to 3 years of retirement before maybe your jersey gets hung, right? You're looking at a long time. The Raptors been here since 95. They got to have some sort of mark up on the stands instead of just all Leaf jerseys. It's Vince. Vince is the one that started it. Vince is the one that puts it up first. You put DeMar right beside him.
Yeah.
Right? But again, I know we all had this thing with Vince of how he left, the way he left.
Yeah.
Vince Carter is still and will always still be my favorite Toronto Raptor. And yes, he should have his first, if they even do it. Who do you think?
It's well documented. People know I hate the way that Vince Carter left.
Yes, I know that.
And, as much as I'm known as a DeMar hater, I think that what DeMar represented, and, I hate the term the right way or whatever, but he was the first guy to actually embrace Toronto and say, hey, I'm going to stay and I'm going to re-up and re-sign deals. And I think that Vince put it on the map.
Of course, yeah. I already said he broke that. The hole through the golden egg, right?
He put basketball on the map in Canada. He did it all for Canada in terms of basketball being a thing. DeMar legitimized the organization, I'd say.
Yes.
Right? Like Vince might have given everyone the introduction. Oh, what's this? What's this? DeMar and Kyle and Casey, that era, legitimized the franchise to where now, there's rumors out there about, hey, the Raptors were on Kristaps Porzingis' list for trades, right? Like, that's not a thing that we thought about.
Yeah. Because there was a little, like you said, there was a Chris Bosh here, but there was a hole when Vince Carter left, right? To when DeMar DeRozan started becoming a perennial all-star, right?
Yeah, right? And you got to give him a lot of credit for that. But again, I want to give DeMar DeRozan a lot of credit for this game tonight because, again, great game had by DeMar DeRozan. He just didn't have it down the stretch, didn't have it at the end. And I guess this is why Masai Ujiri made the move that he made, right?
There's no knock on him.
It's not a knock. It's just, what do we say all the time?
Masai said
there's levels to this shit.
Yeah, he knew that the Raptors had, with DeMar at the hand, it kind of reached its plateau.
Yeah.
And this was a move you make every day. A trade you make every day.
Let's get to some more comments here. Someone on Instagram says, DeMar is by far the greatest Raptor of all time. Arguably, Vince. Where's the whining? Another comment. Was at the game. Energy was lit.
Yeah.
Hold on. You were at the game and now tuning in the podcast. That's dope. Appreciate that. Another comment. Doris Burke was saying all night she wonders when Nick Nurse will play Gasol at the 5 and Ibaka at the 4.
I was saying
so
that
you
too.
and Doris Burke, hey, that's good. That's great company to have.
It's
interesting. I want to see that too as well, right?
Because Mark plays away from the paint, from the basket, and Ibaka can, and it kind of would just give a little bit more spacing. But we'll see. I mean, he's got a lot of time to mess around and see how his rotation wants to be.
Yeah, totally. Someone says, how soon we forget we had this man once up Brian Kalin. Oh, I don't know who they're talking about there. Poor shooting night for Kawhi, but in the end, clutch on both sides of the floor.
That's what good players do.
The one adjustment you got to give the Raptors a lot of credit to what they've done with Kawhi down the stretch. Early on in the season, it was either they'd give him the ball on the wing or at the top of the key, and he was kind of running a pick and roll or an ISO. Now you're realizing that they're trying to get him the ball at the free throw line, right? So somewhere around the free throw line, and then it's just easier for him to either one dribble, get your shot off, or one dribble, get to the basket. But either way, it's just easier for him to operate. It's more in his space to operate, let's say. And that's a great adjustment the Raptors have made from the start of the year to where they're at now, which I think we'd all agree Kawhi's play down the stretch has been better than it was at the start of the year, no?
Yeah, definitely. And another point that I said too, another thumbs up for the Gasol acquisition is, he gets the ball movement a lot better too. And I mentioned it to you when Nick Nurse was the whiz kid at the beginning, and last year with this offense he drew up in, I've said they've kind of been one-dimensional really until the Gasol trade, and I haven't seen anything. Is he waiting for the playoffs, to get all his tricks out of sleeve?
Yeah.
Because there really hasn't been set plays that have been like, wow, did you see that? Gasol adds that element.
Yeah.
His knowledge and all that, but I'm kind of a little bit waiting to see what Coach Nurse kind of has up his sleeve, you know what I mean? And to see the plays they run to get Kawhi open a bit more, or Danny Green a couple more open shots, right? Because obviously he's the best shooter, and to be a good person to kind of get more looks at, right?
Yeah.
So that'd be interesting to see going forward. Another thing, quickly, I wanted to say, now that we have the second half on their way, if you look at the Raptors playoffs and the playoff seedings,
Okay.
I mentioned to you this before, like right now the Raptors are in second.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be the luck where maybe the Raptors have an easy way to the conference finals.
Okay. Easier.
Okay.
Okay.
Easy is, yeah, I guess easier. So it looks like, and again, Indiana's playing amazing without Oladipo, right? And they're still stuck in the third seed. And the best thing for the Raptors would be Philly and Boston to duel it out, the fourth and fifth,
Yeah.
right? Beat the brains out. And if the Raptors can play, if they whether get second or first, and they could get a Charlotte or a Detroit,
Mm-hmm.
and then a Brooklyn who's pretty much locked in at 6.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If we can play one of those and maybe up, you know what I mean?
It's definitely an easier
It
path.
could be an easier path. And I mean, so the reason I'm bringing it up is just more or less, besides the rotation and all that, it's just what Raptors and Raptors fans have to look for the second half
Totally.
going forward, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to really push for that first seed? Obviously, but how does it affect the second seed, right? So just something to look forward to and what could be for the second half, which sometimes the season could be a bit long, right? So
No, for sure. I totally agree. And I think it's one of those things where, you know, if you have that 4-5 matchup of Philly and Boston have to meet in the
and
first
they beat
round,
each other a 7-game series,
Right.
like, yeah, you know, right?
that'll be crazy. I want to read some comments here as post is trickling out from the game. We obviously, as we're talking on the podcast, we saw DeMar DeRozan talking.
Yeah, it is.
And through the magic of Twitter,
Oh.
shouts to our guy Josh Lewenberg.
Joshy.
Getting some quotes here. DeMar DeRozan said he was seeking out Lowry on switches, but, quote, Kyle's fat ass know how to guard me, obviously.
That's what he said.
Yes. DeRozan thinks he got hit on the crucial turnover, but says he should have been more aware of the help. Quote, I knew they were going to be aggressive. It's on me to be able to look ahead and try to read that before. About the reception, DeMar said, it's an honor. I spent practically my whole career here, and to come back and get a reception like that is definitely humbling,
Yep.
beyond gratifying. I appreciate it. He also says, this is big. I think tonight was just the last little piece of closure for me to be able to come back here, see familiar faces, and get that burden off my shoulders. So it was cool.
Yep. The chapter's closed.
Chapter's closed, but the chapter continues on this podcast and for this season for the Toronto Raptors because a great game. And removing the DeMar stuff aside, and I
Yep.
know that that's a massive, massive thing, to reiterate, you saw a lot of good things from this Raptors team down the stretch. You saw with Jeremy Lin, the impact. I think he really changed the game
Yep.
and gave the Raptors that boost needed from your bench in the fourth quarter.
Especially with Van Fleet out. Yeah.
For sure, especially with Van Fleet out. And again, that's your third string point guard.
Mm-hmm.
That's incredible. That's
And Van Fleet's
incredible
out for
depth.
5 weeks now, guys. They said 3 initially, but yeah, that's huge. It was a great pickup, and he wanted to come here.
Yeah.
I mean, bio candidates weren't always up for coming to Toronto, and now they are.
This is kind of funny. Someone says Pascal turning before that corner 3 went in like Curry was fire. That was actually kind of
And
funny.
those
I did
shoes
see
were
that.
dripping too. Pascal was wearing some nice shoes.
My guy C Brown says, when did Vernon Wells become a ref? He
That's a
kinda
good
look like that.
comparison. He did.
That's
yeah.
pretty good. That's pretty good. My guy Boogie on on Instagram says Pascal is starting to understand basketball. He will compete with the Greek Freak. Wow.
Wow. I mean, if that is what we get out of Siakam in the next couple of years, sign me up. I mean, that's a tall
That's
pole
high
to climb
praise.
for
That's very high
Siakam.
praise.
But I mean, yeah, guys, listen. Caden, my son, was actually saying that as well. That he thinks Pascal is going to be the most improved. And I mean, it's him and De'Aaron Fox. Karis LeVert's out now with that injury. But I mean, yeah, if Pascal doesn't have a consecutive slump games, if he just stays the par, I mean, the most improved is for him to win. Has any Raptor ever won that? Or
Most improved player? I
Yeah.
don't think so.
so it could
I
be
don't
the
think
first.
so. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure. I'd
'Cause,
have
I mean,
to
if the
look that
season
up.
ended
not
today,
sure,
I'm
though.
pretty sure they'd give it to him.
Yeah.
Which is good, guys. I mean, hey, and the thing's been going around too. I'm pretty sure you guys all saw the quote of when Masai drafted Pascal, and they said that what was he thinking when DeAndre Davis or something was there?
Yeah.
He put his foot in his mouth in that one.
I'll never forget, though, the funniest part of that draft. I remember watching and seeing them select Siakam, and I'm like, I have no idea who this guy is
from New Mexico.
But I remember
State.
looking at it and being like, okay, New Mexico State, that's a...
His rebounding, you said, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
His rebounding and block numbers, and that shows that you have a motor. And if you and that's something that translates to the NBA. Rebounding and blocks translate. That shows effort and hustle. And so if you get that to the NBA, there's going to be a spot for you. You're going to get a chance. And now we saw that from years before, and now we're seeing the development of the rest of his game. And hey, the sky is the limit. It appears to be that way, anyways, right? The sky's the limit. I got a comment here from Instagram that says, I'm a Raptors fan from Greece, and I've been watching every game, even if a lot of the games are in the morning. And every single time after the game, I watch your podcast, which is absolute fire.
Wow, thank you.
Wow,
Pulikala.
Right? Shout.
Yasu, thank you.
Yeah, that's amazing. Really appreciate that. Another comment here says, Trust Podcast is a can't miss after the game. Really appreciate you guys. And to be honest, too, shouts to the OG people on SoundCloud. SoundCloud was the first place a podcast ever appeared. So shouts to the OG people there. Shouts to the people that are always on Twitter and Instagram post game, because, you know, whether I'm here by myself or I'm here with Mike, there's still a bunch of people always communicating.
It's like you're in a room with 50 people.
Yeah,
right?
I'm never alone doing the podcast.
Exactly.
And I really appreciate that, because wouldn't be able to do it without you guys. So really appreciate it. And the numbers all over the place are huge. Subscriptions are almost at 1,000 on YouTube. Numbers are growing, so really appreciate that. Shouts to all you guys watching from all over the world. Apparently, we got the Philippines, we got Greece.
We had Edmonton a couple podcasts ago.
Incredible. More comments though, and that's also why, in case people wonder, because I've heard people say sometimes, "Oh, I was going to watch the podcast, but when I saw how long it was, I was like, kind of afraid of how long it was." Yeah. The reason why it's so long is because I want to read people's comments, right? And like that's the main purpose of this, to have the conversation with the fans. So let me stop talking and I'll continue that. Someone says, what's the point of trading for Gasol if he's going to come off the bench? What happened to building chemistry for the playoffs? There's still time, but I see the point, and I agree with that point, right? At some point, got to make the move and see Gasol on the floor with Kawhi, Kyle, Danny Green, Siakam. Like, see that for extended periods. Because at the point that we're at now, we're still waiting for the smooth chemistry between Kawhi and Kyle and Pascal, right? We're 60 games in, and we're still not really seeing that. Yeah. It's gotten better at points, looked good at points, but still not really there. Yeah. So with Gasol, I like to see that at some point too.
No, and I think you. I mean, quickly, I'll just stick by my comments too. I just want to see him finish the game more. You know what I mean? As long as he's in the crunch time, I don't really care who starts the first 5 minutes. But yeah, we'll see what Nurse does.
More comments here. Someone says basketball will be Canada's game in 10 years. #facts. Another comment.
Naismith has something. James Naismith, it is Canada's game. But yeah, I don't know. Good point.
Another person says, shout out to P Skills. Of course, we will shout out P Skills. Someone says Siakam is going to be a real problem. He is very versatile. If his jump shot keeps falling, watch out. Add a pull-up J, and he's an all-star MVP candidate kind of player. Yep. Wow.
Another thing too with the Gasol trade guide is that we got somebody where we didn't have to give up Siakam, right? Yeah. Because let's be brutally honest. The only players we would have accepted, and I don't even think all the fans would have. I know me and you would have. Trading Siakam would have been for Bradley Beal or Anthony Davis. Yeah. And even Bradley Beal, some people might have argued that, right?
Yeah, a lot of people argued giving him up for Bradley Beal.
I mean, listen, Masai would not trade OG or Pascal, and we could kind of see why. And you know what? He put that 44 up the other game. He's getting that smooth shot in the arc. And
hey, man.
Yeah, man.
One of the things I've said, too, is that, hey, I said I would have done that. Masai Ujiri is obviously a lot smarter than us, right? For a reason. Yeah. And hey, more power to Masai. Yeah. Masai knows more than we know, so more than we know than I can actually say publicly as well, which is actually kind of funny because remind me to tell you a couple things after. I will. Because it just popped back in my head. But lots of stuff going on here. More comments. This league will take back the second technical on Nick Nurse. I don't know about that. Another comment, Kyle looking like he's regaining his explosiveness. Here's the thing, Kyle, I know he played in the All-Star game, but didn't play heavy minutes, but basically he had a full week off.
Yeah.
That's pretty good if you're
Back
Kyle
looked
Lowry.
good. Yeah, let's hope.
Right? That's pretty good if you're Kyle Lowry. That's pretty good if you're Kawhi Leonard. Also, there was a pretty funny story. I was telling it on the Ball on Blast podcast, but one of the reporters during All-Star weekend was saying that they were at their hotel, and it was Friday morning, probably like 9 a.m. or something like that, and they go down to the gym that's in the hotel lobby.
Okay.
They get on the treadmill. They're running on the treadmill, headphones on, in their own world, whatever, and then you feel like a presence, like someone just got on the treadmill beside you.
Yeah.
Looks over, and it's Kawhi. And he's like, wait a second. Like, how is Kawhi just randomly on this, like, random, hotel lobby
three
gym?
Three treadmills in there, and Kawhi's on one.
Kawhi's there just, getting his sweat on. And it's like,
yeah,
that's Kawhi Leonard, right?
Guys, quickly, just on Kawhi Leonard, comment at the YouTube on some. If you guys have seen his shoes, his New Balance shoes, I want to know if you guys think they're fly or not. Would you rock those or not? But the font of the Kawhi Leonard too is so Kawhi, eh?
Someone says Kawhi won the game, and all you're talking about is DeMar. Damn.
Because it's DeMar's last game. Like we said, guys, the chapter's finally closed. Hopefully we don't not hopefully, but we're not going to be really talking about this. Like I said, it's the second half. It's the rotation is the run to the playoffs, and hopefully the run to the finals. This is going to be the last podcast where we go DeMar. So we're giving him his due.
We bigged up Kawhi. Kawhi down the stretch shows why you make that trade.
Of course.
Defense, he hit the big boy buckets. That turnaround J he hit over DeMar.
Yeah, that was nice. Perfect. That was
there was a play, a couple plays before where he got the ball in the post.
And he did the left
backed
hand.
him down the lefty lay-in. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, you're seeing everything from Kawhi Leonard. You're seeing exactly why, the levels between good and great, or, all-star and superstar in the league.
Yeah.
And as quiet as Kawhi is, the one thing we know is he can ball, and he lets his game do the talking. Did I just steal that line from his commercial, the New Balance commercial? I think I did, actually.
Did. Unintentionally?
Unintentionally.
Wow.
Did not mean to do that. Someone here on Twitter says, one person says, Coastworth. Shout out to Coastworth.
Coastworth.
Wow. Another comment. Started ball. No, Masai, Executive of the Year. That's what I was going to read. I mean.
Yeah.
That's a big boy move by Masai.
Who else?
I'm not mad.
Who would be the top three right now? Him?
The Bucks, probably. The Bucks got to be up there. They made some additions, getting Mirotic deal, I guess. What's his name? Brook Lopez was a pretty big pickup for them as well.
Yeah.
But I'd say Masai, when you think that in a year you've added Marc Gasol and Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green and Jeremy Lin, like, that's a lot of pieces to your team.
Yep.
Let's get to some more comments, though, before we wrap up.
No pun intended.
Yeah, nope, definitely. I hate when I do that stuff.
A lot of puns.
Oh, man. DeMar DeRozan brought us to the conference finals, took 2 from LeBron when we were supposed to get swept. Milwaukee next year, dunking on Giannis to win the series. Stop hating. Come on, guys. First off, there's some revisionist history there.
And you need 4 wins, not 2.
That's not how it went down.
If you're going to make the fact... Listen, I understand what you're saying, but if you're going to have to point out the fact that he took 2 from LeBron, like, that's some sort of victory. I know it's LeBron, but DeMar's great, guys. We know that. It's just, like Masai said, it seemed like the Raptors had plateaued, and unfortunately, that's who the Spurs wanted back.
Yeah.
If they wanted Kyle... We said, no, we want, if Pop's like, no, we want a Kyle, we could be DeMar and Kyle here, right? Like, I mean, DeMar and Kawhi, right?
Yeah.
But that's who they wanted a player back, a wing, and that's who they got.
Yeah.
We love DeMar. DeMar's game is great. It's just, like you said, there's levels to this shit. And Kawhi is just a level ahead.
Someone says, shout out to Ronson. Oh, that's got to be Paul, right?
Oh, Rawson.
Shout out. Yeah, I mean, I'm not mad at DeMar. No. It's just, these are the facts.
Yeah.
One of those series, the year they made the conference finals, you beat the Pacers, which you almost were going to lose until Norm Powell came in.
Yep.
And then Norm Powell really gave the boost. But if we go back, the Raptors won because of overall depth, not because they were led there by DeMar and Kyle.
Yeah, no.
Also, there's some stuff behind the scenes that people might not really know about. The Cavs not taking the Raptors that seriously in the conference finals, as the Cavs swept through the whole playoffs, came to Toronto, I'll say, had some fun in Toronto while they were here.
Yeah.
I'll say that. The Raptors won the 2 games, and hey, cool, that's great.
Yeah, the 2 games. Yeah.
But we saw the difference the following year when
Both home
LeBron was
games,
saying,
too.
hey, we're not messing around this time. And it was just sweep.
Yeah.
So,
Fortunately, LeBron is not in the East, but now we have the coming rise of Giannis, right?
hey,
So
let's go.
it doesn't get easy.
I'll still take Kawhi. Let's go.
Yeah.
Someone says, shout out Mighty Mouse. He beat Jordan and Pippen.
Damon Stoudemire.
That's funny. That's a great comment there. Let's see. This was a great podcast. This was a lot of fun. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. Thank you to the people who gave me the heads up on the Twitter timeline here to check the mic, because I fixed the mic midway through because someone told me that.
Thank you.
Shouts to that. Really appreciate that, guys.
They couldn't hear me at all? Or was it just...
They could. It was just low.
Yeah, okay.
It was just low, which, the beauty of this
That's my
is
bass voice.
when we
guys.
fix it in
Do it on the fly.
editing. No, but
Oh.
in editing, the
Oh,
podcast
no,
that people will hear tomorrow, they'll be like, what are you talking about? I
Yeah.
can hear it.
Yeah.
Because that's the
Perfect.
magic of editing.
Magic.
And that's the magic of how we do this podcast, because we try to deliver it to you in multiple ways.
Yep.
However you want it, however you need it, we got you covered. Whether you tune in live on Twitter at Shell Alexander or on Instagram, we take your questions live. But if that doesn't work for you, it becomes a podcast which you can download. Really, guys, appreciate it if you guys could like and subscribe, support
Smash
the
that
movement.
like button, guys. Subscribe, please.
Yes, a like and subscribe button is really important on iTunes, on SoundCloud, on Google Play, and of course on YouTube. That's really important and helps
Community.
us keep going and helps us build the community and legitimize what we're doing here. Really appreciate all you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If people want to get more from you during the week when you're not on the pod, just what you're thinking, what's going on,
Yep.
where can people hit you up and follow the movement that is?
Definitely.
Mr.
Like I
Bellamy?
always say, please leave comments, funny comments, anything on the YouTube. Love it. I read through them all, guys. I read through them all, man. I wake up, read them. They're so funny. Also, if you want, you can follow me. Hit me up on Instagram. Mike Bello, BELLO _6. Hit me up, guys. Appreciate this all truly from the bottom of our hearts. This is a great little segue, the great little setup and for the Raptors fans to, just let everything out right after the game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we appreciate it. Again, it's a community. And much love. Thank you, guys. Everything. Mike Bello _6. Hit me up, guys.
Hey, and again, at Shell Alexander on Twitter, at Sheldon Alexander on Instagram. Search On Blast Podcast on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. Really appreciate it, because I used to pray for times like this
To rhyme like this.
This is the Wrap It Up On Blast Raps post-game show. As always, unpolished and unapologetic. Until next time, see ya.
Peace.
On blast.